Right now, we are just about 30 minutes to the president starting a news conference, and we expect the looming fiscal cliff to be front and center. We'll take a closer look for you at that ahead. But the Petraeus scandal will be the giant elephant in the room. We have new information for you in the investigation into the attacks on a U.S. consulate in Libya. The former CIA director Petraeus will testify before Congress. His testimony would be limited to the attacks, but not the extramarital affair that resulted in his resignation. We don't yet have a date for his testimony. But now a news alert. The commander of the military wing of Hamas killed in an Israeli airstrike. The assassination was followed by a series of airstrikes around Gaza. Some are taking this as a sign that Israel is resuming its policy of assassinating Palestinian leaders. And just into 7 News, a former Douglas County teacher and basketball coach turns himself in to police on charges that he sexually assaulted a former student. Richard Johnson left the district in March after teaching at Rocky Heights Middle School and coaching at Rocky Canyon High School. While the investigation started in June, the court documents say the incident in question happened in August 2010. Johnson turned himself into police yesterday. He's been on $50,000 bond since. Returning now to the White House, the president's news conference today at 11:30 our time is big for a number of reasons. It's the first since his re-election last week and the first since his CIA director, David Petraeus, of course, resigned over an extramarital affair. He'll be facing a barrage of reporter questions on Benghazi, the fiscal cliff, and Petraeus. And we will be bringing you that news conference live. Again, that's around 11:30 our time, so please stay tuned. Now, there are 48 days left for Republicans and Democrats to come to an agreement before the end of the year to avoid the so-called fiscal cliff. If things don't change, tax cuts would expire for middle-income Americans in January. That includes the child tax credit, the alternative minimum tax, and payroll tax. 27 million taxpayers could expect to see an extra $3,700 on their tax bills. Extended unemployment benefits for those who've been out of work for a long time also would expire, and Medicare doctors would see a cut in payments. Later today, the president will be meeting with the chief executives from some of the country's biggest companies. They include General Electric, Ford, Walmart, and the Dow. On Friday, the president will hold a meeting with congressional Republicans, and he's expected to take a hard line with them, calling for $1.6 trillion in additional tax revenues over the next 10 years. Some in the public seem skeptical that a deal can be reached. A Pew Research Center poll released today shows 15% doubt an agreement would happen by January 1st. 38% believe it will happen. New for you at 11, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announces she's going to run again for the House leadership post. Last week's elections left the Democrats still in the minority in the House. Her colleagues have said for days that the post would be hers if she wants it. Developing now, the director of the FBI is heading to Capitol Hill to brief members of the intelligence committees on the sex scandal involving David Petraeus. As ABC's Mark Greenblatt reports, Petraeus' mistress, Paula Broadwell, is suspected of storing significant amounts of military documents, including classified material, inside her home in North Carolina.
Overnight, Paula Broadwell is seen here at her brother's home, having a quick meal and a glass of wine. She's still not speaking about her affair with David Petraeus, but another respected four-star general caught up in the scandal got a vote of confidence from the Secretary of Defense. John Allen is accused of exchanging potentially inappropriate emails with Tampa socialite Jill Kelly, who sparked the investigation that led Petraeus to resign as CIA director.
No one should leap to any conclusions here. He certainly has my continued confidence to lead our forces and to continue the fight.
But under scrutiny now, Kelly, an honorary consul general for South Korea, called 911 to ask for protection from the media.
Because I'm an honorary consul general, so I have inviolability, so they should not be able to cross my property. I don't know if you want to get diplomatic protection involved as well, but now because that's against the law to cross my property.
And following an FBI search of Broadwell's home, the reserve intelligence officer could face prosecution, suspected of storing significant amounts of confidential material at her home. It's all a major distraction for the government's investigation of the attack on the American consulate in Benghazi, which Petraeus recently investigated himself.
I know that we're interested in hearing from him.
And in an about-face, Petraeus says that he now will testify in a closed session of Congress about that attack, one that the U.S. military's top commander in Africa says has just been linked to al-Qaeda. Mark Greenblatt, ABC News, New York.
Meantime, new video has surfaced of Broadwell talking about her relationship with Petraeus. It was during a panel discussion at the Aspen Institute here in July.
Yet I was entrusted with this opportunity to sit in on high-level meetings with General Petraeus. You can't get the story in the granular detail like these gentlemen have unless you go there and you live it a little bit. So.
Broadwell also said Petraeus loved to work out and made physical fitness a priority. A 20-year-old Westminster man accused of wanting to assassinate President Obama, Mitchell Cusick, is facing federal charges of threats against the president. And according to a federal complaint, Cusick was turned in by his therapist. That therapist suggested he go to the hospital on a 3-day medical hold, and then the therapist contacted law enforcement. Westminster police and Secret Service agents interviewed him inside Lutheran Medical Center, where he was placed on a 72-hour hold. According to the federal complaint, he told police he wanted to shoot children trick-or-treating at a Halloween event at Stanley Lake High School. The complaint says he told police he wanted to commit the shooting so he could go down in infamy, his words. Based on the complaint, Cusick told his therapist he kept track of President Obama's visits to the metro area and told his therapist he wanted to go down as the guy who killed Obama, but later told Secret Service agents he had used the president as an example and that he meant any political figure. Mitchell Cusick is charged with threats against the president and a misdemeanor for a credible threat against a school. If he's convicted, he could face up to 5 years in prison. He's due back in federal court on Friday.